Hi everyone. Today I'm working with some of the Boho Girls journal papers, and I'm wanting to make a journal that's aimed to be for a young lady, and I really want it to focus on positive affirmations, positive sayings, to be really something inspirational. I want it to be bright and colourful and modern. Because the papers in this journal are so bright, I think that these sorts of pens will be perfect. So I'll show you that. So these are the souffle pens, and they come in a whole range of colours, and that's the let me see if I can zoom in on that. So souffle pens. Posca pens come in a huge range of colours, and they're really bright little paint pens. These would be perfect, these white pens. You can get a whole range of brands. These are the Uniball Sino. They're fantastic. They're like a white gel pen. Any of the paint pens that you might have in metallic colours, gold and silver, and any of the black fine liner pens or pit pens would be perfect for this journal. I've also printed a whole range of motivational sayings, and there's a heap of different sayings, nice bright colour splashes and shapes behind, and a couple of pages of blank ones where you can write your own sayings or words. So I've done that. One of the suggested uses for this journal is to use it for zentangling or drawing, and I just thought I'd show you, for those that don't know what that is. It's really just using markers or pens and designing patterns, and this is one of the books that I have. It gives you the step by step to build a pattern up. It's a really lovely way to, it's almost meditative, and you can see that there's some really beautiful designs that you can come up with, and it can take you ages to just do one picture. It's just a really lovely way to relax and meditate and get away from the world for a little bit. And I'll just give you a quick peek at the finished product. So here's the finished journal there. Just tied it with some lovely fibres that came from Which Craft Do You Do. So you can see the gold edging all over the front. And then what I've also done inside is I've tucked a whole range of motivational sayings in here, because that's what this whole journal is about. And the same in this pocket, just a tag and a few motivational sayings that go in there. And then in the back, what I've done is I've printed those motivational quotes. There's a few more cards here in the back, and just some grid paper. And then I've made a vellum envelope. I've printed those quotes, so from the original size, I've printed them 2 per page, so you can see they're half the size. And so they've all just been cut. They're printed onto sticker paper so that you can cut them out and put them in. And I've also printed them in black and white in case you wanted to just have black and white. So there's a couple of sets of those in the back, and they just slip into a vellum envelope and tuck into that back pocket. So this journal's not about all the extra bits and pieces and embellishments and things. That's not its purpose. You could always add all of that. When you put it together, when you flip these signatures over, there's plenty of room to add tabs and fabric dangles and all sorts of things. And I'll just show you, as you close it, it kind of locks in together, which I really like. And then it sits beautifully, and there's not a lot of space. There's a little bit of space to add extra bits and pieces, but the purpose of this one is not to add all those embellishments and photographs and everything. It's to write and draw. So that's the finished product there. And so what I've done is I've printed the Boho girls journal papers, and on the reverse side I've used 2 different kits. So these papers, I'll just show you, they're really bright and colourful. Lots of butterflies and flowers and gold and fabrics on them, which is going to be perfect for what I want. So on the back of this set I've printed the watercolour florals journal papers, which really complement the colours. So they're lovely. They're lots of flowers, lots of bright colours, but also plenty of space to write. So that's that set. And then on this set, again, there's lots of bows in their hair and all the different colours, every colour you can think of. And on the back of these, I've printed the Boho Nature journal papers. So I'll just show you, there's some really beautiful papers. Everything's bright and colourful, and anything will go pretty much with them. And a lot of the girls are really reflective, pensive, quiet. You know, they're not fake or posed or anything, very natural looking. And on the back, this is the Boho Nature journal papers, which again are all plenty of space to write, lots of different colours, nice and bright. So they're the papers I'm choosing to use. And then what I'm going to do with these is I've printed them at a full A4 size. So I'm using a file folder, and in this case I'm using one of these. These are the Pendle Flex, and they've got 5 different colours. So I'm using one of these, and what I'm wanting to do is I want it to be a file folder. I want it to be a journal, sorry, that will fold over like that. So I've already pre-scored it just to give you an idea of what I want to do. I'm using this large tab part, and I want it to be overlapping slightly, and I've printed 2 of these images onto cardstock. So one girl looking this way and the other girl looking that way, and my idea is to, with this image, place this girl onto this part of the image, of the file folder, and then instead of having a smooth edge, what I wanted to try and do was cut the contours of her face and shoulder and have the edge be shaped in that way. So that will be that side, cut like that, and then the opposite side, on this side, will be the girl looking the other way, and again cut the page to fit the contours of this image rather than have it straight. So that's the goal. To do that, what I've done is, because I've printed my papers on A4, all I did was I took the measurement of this file folder with take the tabs off and measured it, and it came out to 17 centimetres. So I'll show you how I worked mine out. You can do it with any file folder. The size of my A4 folded in half without cutting it down, I need, so the page itself is under 6 centimetres, but I want to have ribbons and tabs and stuff, so I'm leaving myself 6.5. So in the centre of my file folder, I want 6.5 inches, Then I decided I just wanted a 1-inch spine. That's going to give me plenty of space. So I need 1 and 1 there. And so that all together measures 6.5 plus 2 is 8.5. And my file folder in total is 17. So all I did was, for these fold over bits, I split the difference between the two of those. So it's 8.5. 8.5 and 8.5 is 17. So that means that that's 4 1/4 and that's 4 1/4. So that's all I've done. I've taken it to the scoreboard and scored from in here 4 1/4, and from, not from the end of the tab, but from this point here to 4 1/4, and added my 2 1-inch spines. And then I've just tried to flatten out these pre-scored lines, and that gave me my fold and my overlap, which is plenty. Then I just took the height of my A4 paper, and I just want a tiny little bit either side. So I'll show you. I just want a little bit above and below the line, and then I've just scored on that line, and that's given me to this point. And now you've got, obviously you don't want it all to this piece to stay whole. You're going to have to cut it. You can obviously see that that makes for a nice pocket in the back, so I would cut that out. And on the front side, I've just trimmed a little bit off this and traced the shape of that tab. That makes a nice little tuck spot in there, and I can have a pocket there. So all I'm going to do now is I'll trim this down, and I think I'll have a pocket on that side, a pocket on that side, and a pocket in the middle. Get rid of these spine pieces, and I've grabbed some magnets, because what I thought would work best with this is use these larger magnets and close the journal with the magnets so that I get everything nice and square, and place the magnets in. So I'll do that and come back and show you. Okay, so here's my folder. So once everything was folded up, I've just trimmed just on the slightly on the inside, so that of the crease, so that when it folds up, that's going to fold really nicely. So that's my 3 bits, and I've just cut those 2 bits out that I don't need for the spine. So there's so I've got 3 pockets that way, and when it's folded, this one can be a pocket from this side, and it can also be a tuck from that side. So I'll think about whether I want to add, I think I'll add just an extra piece on the back of this so that the tuck and the pocket are separate. So that's the stage I'm up to. Once I've cut this, you can see that the core of this paper is white, and I just happen to have a Stampin' Up stamp pad in purely pomegranate that matches this quite nicely. So I'm just going to get rid of that. You can see that that's a pretty good match, and just ink those edges that I've just cut. And now, before I glue these pockets closed, I think I'm going to use, I've got one of these tab punches. What I think I'd like to do is in the center of this one have a tab. So I'm just going to find the center. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the center is going to be here. Just make a little mark, and then on that pocket, that gives me a nice wide opening. Put it roughly in the center. So that's what I've got there. On this one I don't want to do that because I'm going to cover the inside of this pocket to make a little envelope so that is a separate tuck spot. So I can glue this pocket down, but I'll decorate it probably behind and on top before I do that. And the same with that one. What I want to try and do now is take this image, and so what I've done is, because I've made the file folder height just large enough to give me a little gap either side, I should be able to get, so this image will fit, see the crease of, this is going to be the front cover, so this should give me a nice little gap of about 1/8 of an inch all the way around to glue that image on, and then I can cut that edge, so that should fit. I can cut that profile out. So what I'll do is I'm going to put double-sided tape on the back of this so that it's really well glued, and I'm going to glue this sheet onto this cover, just leaving about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. So let me do that and I will come back and show you. So I've added the double-sided tape just to the part of the image that I'm going to need. Now I can put my front cover on. If you want it in the edges, just quickly do that now. So what I'm going to do is line this up. I've made sure that this tab is going to be wide enough for me to cut the contours out. And you've got two options here. You can cut the contour out first, so take this away, cut the contour out, and then place it into position and make sure you cut the file folder with the 1/8 of an inch. So you could do it that way, so that when I sit this on, there's 1/8 of an inch of file folder showing all the way around. Or you can glue it on and then cut the contours, which I think is what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to peel off the first layer of the double-sided tape, and I think double-sided tape is really the best choice here because I'm cutting the image. I'm actually not going to know if I used another glue. I'd have to make sure that 100% of the image is covered because I'm going to be cutting it. So now get this lined up. So I'm just using my thumb to keep it raised, making sure that I've got an equal amount at the top and the bottom. And get that one put into place. And then take the other papers off. So I've just taken 3 off. If you've got wider double-sided tape, that makes this process faster. But this is the widest one I've got. And I do need the last one just. So now, just going to put that tape back on just to keep that not being too sticky. And I can see that I've already made a mistake. Because I've put my magnets on, I'm actually going to be cutting them off. So let's go back to square one with that. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take some scissors. If you're really good with your blade, then use your blade. But I'm just going to roughly cut around. Just make sure that, yeah, there's plenty of space. So I'm just going to make sure the pocket's out of the way. What I think I'll do is cut level, because this pocket's going to fold up. I'll cut along that line first so that stays level. Which happens to line up with her shoulder, and then I'm just going to trying to leave about 1/4 of an inch from the contour of her face, and just take my time and slowly cut. So now that pocket, I need to trim that pocket. So that's the front cover there. All right. So let me put these magnets back. Now this one, because that pocket, the magnet's going to have to be on the pocket. I'm just going to make sure that's nice and flat. And I'm just going to get my blade here and just see that little edge piece. I just want that to be in line with my pocket. Now these magnets, put them into position, and then let's do this process again. I'm just trying to make sure that that's a right angle and then it's all lined up on the bottom. Just sit that into position there. And then do the same on the top. Well, that was tricky, but get your magnets into place. And then I'm going to do the same process with this image. I will need to trim some off this side for this one to work, and what I'll do is I'll trim I'll put double-sided tape on the back of this to that point, and then I will put it on. I'll cut a slice off that will fit on the spine on that side, and that will just fit her on there, so I will do that. Okay, so I've put this image on to the left side of the cover, and I've left 1/4 inch all the way around, and then I've just cut with my scissors around the profile, and that's the idea that I had. I've added 3 magnets into position just with some double-sided tape, and then I've closed everything to get it nice and square, and then put the other side of the magnet on top with double-sided tape on the back and close that to get that into position. So that's the way that's going to close, and that sits nicely. So now I'm ready to do the other image, which I have here. I've added some double-sided tape to the back of it, and now what I want to do is work out, this image is not as, this panel is not as big as that side because the tab is missing. So what I want to do is I'm going to adhere this image to here, and just like on this side I've left about 1/4 inch around the profile. What I'm going to first do is figure out, so just lining this up on my board. So if I want to cut around her profile and I want to include this butterfly, I want to leave about 1/4 inch away from that butterfly to cut around that. And so it's, I think that will do. So that's going to sit against this edge, and I want to leave 1/4 inch around every other side, just like on this side I've left 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. I'm going to do the same on this side. So what I want to do is measure to this edge here, just leaving that little 1/4 inch. So altogether it's 4 1/4. Let me just check that it is 1/4 inch I've left. It's 1/8 inch. So if I have 1/8 inch, I want to cut this piece at 4 1/8. And then this piece, so that's going to sit on there nicely. This piece I will cut to fit the spine, which is 1 inch. So if I just leave, so I'm cutting off the, so this image will link up with that image, so I'm going to trim this side. I just want to trim a tiny bit off there, maybe 1/8 of an inch. So let me adhere this side first. Again, just getting everything. I might just quickly ink that white edge. And then get this lined up. Well, I've got 1/4 of an inch all the way around. Now on this edge, because I want this pocket to be a tab, what I might do is just trim around that profile and come out to that point. So okay. So I'm just going to put a little bit of ink along that edge just to get rid of the white. And now I'm happy with that pocket. I'm happy with that pocket. I just need to line the back of that. And then this one looks weird. So, because I've cut it to fit the profile there, what I might do is line this up straight on the board, and I might just take a slice off that and then reduce the height of that. And I can redo the, makes it tricky having the ruler there, but I can redo the corner yeah, so I'll just trim that off a little bit to round that. And then let me just get a little bit of paper and I'll do the same profile on the other side. So to that point. Okay. Alright, so that's the basis of the journal, and then I'm going to add this piece onto the spine, and then from that piece, so I've got some scraps anyway. I'll decorate with these scrap pieces the front and back of the spine, the spines and the back of the journal, and I'll come back and show you what I've done. So I've got to this point where I've covered the outside of the journal. So if I lay that all out, you can see that I've just left a little bit of the crimsony colour showing, and that's covered. I've also decided that on the inside I'm going to have this piece of paper, this image in the middle, and this image on this side. And I haven't glued those down yet, and the reason I haven't glued them down yet is because I'm going with a hidden a hidden signature in the spine. And what I mean by that is I've cut a piece of board, so I had these pieces left from cutting the images on the front, and so I've just cut it 3 inches wide, because on mine the spine is 1 inch, so I've cut it 3 inches wide, so I've got about 1 inch either side. And I've scored it at 1 and 1 7/8, because I want to make sure that on the inside, when it's all folded up, that this fits in nicely. If I did it for the whole inch, it would be too tight. So I'm just going to pull these off for a minute and show you what I mean. So I've stitched these 2 signatures onto this piece, and that's ready to stick in, and I've put some double-sided tape on the back of it, so that's going to sit in and be glued in like that. And that will do 2 things. It will reinforce this crease on the spine, and it will hide the stitching from the inside of my signatures, which I've done in different colours. So it's a boho theme, so we want plenty of colour. So where's my middle? So I've done some purple and some orange in different colours. So I'm going to glue that, and what I've decided is I've got 4 signatures, so there's 2 signatures stitched in. So I'm going to have 2 signatures with the images of the girls on the left side of the page. Let me find them. So the images of the girls looking towards are on the left side of the page, and I've interspersed it with just hand dyed papers. So that's going to go on that side like that. And then I've got another 2 signatures that I'm going to put on the other side in the 1 inch seam. And so what will happen is when the journal is sitting together, it'll kind of, so one signature will sit flat, another signature, then that signature, and then that signature. So they won't align, there'll be a gap between them, but it just means that you can flip and flop the journal and use the signatures themselves as bookmarks. So that's what I've decided to do. I haven't tried this before, so we'll just see how it goes. So this process, I'll just show you quickly. I've just got my 3 inch strip of paper that's going to go in the 1 inch spine, and it's scored at 1 inch and 1 7/8. Then I just basically took my ruler and and made my pencil lines for the 2 signatures to go in. So I've just ruled 2 pencil lines. Then I've taken a strip of paper that's the same height as my journal and just marked top. I folded that in half and I measured, I think I did 1 1/4 inches from the top, 1 1/4 inches and just punched a hole, and 1 1/4 inches from the bottom and punched a hole, and then to find the middle I just folded it up, put a pinch in there and made a hole in the center. And so that way my signatures will all line up. Now to transfer those onto this, I just place this on the board with this ruled line, if you can see that ruled line lining up with a line on the board, and then my crease in the middle on that line, and lined it up top and bottom, and then I just poked my holes through this piece of card and moved it across and did the same on that other pencil line. So there's the pencil line there and there. Matching that up and punch my holes, sorry, in there. So there's my holes there, that's ready to go. And then to do my signatures, I just make sure all my papers are the correct way up and in the order that I want them. And I just use my fingernails, line everything up to get it square, and then just push that in so that that's really tightly centered. And I use a bulldog clip on the top. I flip it upside down and do the same. Make sure everything's really pushed in as tight as I can get it, and clip that top. And then I do the same again and clip this side. And the other side as well. And that just makes sure everything is as even and as squared as you can get it. Now make sure my image is at the top and my little template is at the top. Again, I just push this right into the crease, make sure it's squared, and then I just use the hole that I've already punched. I just pinch that together and push through to make my hole, and do that for my 3 holes. So there's my piece that I've already punched the holes into. That's the top, and this is going to be the top, so I'm going to stitch it into the top row of holes. I've just threaded another different colour embroidery floss onto my needle. I'm going to go through the middle hole and just with my thumb just hold on to the bottom of that so it doesn't pull all the way through. And then, because this is the top signature, I'm going to go through that top hole. Then, doesn't matter which way you go, down through the bottom hole and back through that hole that I've already just punched. Pull that through. Then straight up to the top hole and through that top hole that I've punched in the card, if I can find it. just make sure you've left enough in the middle, because I'm thinking of making something pretty to dingle dangle in the middle. Grab hold of your thread so everything stays nice and tight. Go back through that hole, and when you pull it through, you want to make sure that you've got one string either side of this center string, and then just tie a double knot to keep that nice. Make sure everything's nice and tight. I've just made that a bit too tight. Nice and flat, and then tie your second knot. And cut your excess string off. Take your clips off. And then what I also like to do is just go and burnish every couple of pages to make sure it's sitting nice and flat. So that's my top signature. Now my bottom signature, I will do exactly the same way. I'll clip it all together tightly with my bulldog clips, use my template to punch my holes and a different colour thread, and I will stitch that into the bottom. Okay, so I flipped these pockets out of the way and just paper clipped them out of the way, and I have glued these two signatures on that piece of cardboard and got them sitting beautifully in there. And just make sure that before you move ahead that you really burnish that down really well and just give it a little bit of time to dry. And by taking that little 1/4 inch out when we scored that, you can see that it sits perfectly inside. So I'll show you how I do that with the other side. So these two signatures are going to go in on this position, and so I've clipped these two folders, flipped them upside down and just got them out of the way. That's where I want that to sit. And the important thing with this is that when I glue these in, what I want to make sure is that these two signatures are sitting, you can see there, so that I've got an even amount top and bottom here, and I want this to match. So I'm not worried about lining this part up. I want to make sure my signatures align perfectly with the two that are already in there. So to do that, I've put double-sided tape on the back of this. I'm just going to take the two center pieces off. So this is the 1 inch spine part off. And because this is going to have the most stress on it, I want to make certain that it's really well glued. So I'm going to put my art glitter glue on this as well. That will make sure it's really, really well adhered, and it'll also just give me a couple of seconds of wiggle room to get this into position. So plenty of glue to make sure that there's nothing that's really going to stick and hold and make it impossible to move. And then make certain everything's up the right way. don't ask me how I know this. And now I want to sit this, and I'm looking top and bottom to make certain that I've got the edge of this lined up with that crease there, that crease, and that I've got an equal amount top and bottom. And even here might be a good idea just to clip, because these will move, just to get them lined up and just clip that so that that doesn't move just while I'm positioning it. And then make certain I've got all the way along, I've got an equal amount top and bottom, and that it's going to sit. I'm just pushing this bit up to see, make sure that it's going to sit, and then that is going to line up perfectly as well, which it does. So I think that's my right position, so I'm just going to push it up from this back part and sit that on, and then without letting it come off, so I'm happy that that's in position. So now I'm just going to burnish that in between the two signatures. And then either side. Remember, I've only glued down that 1 inch part, and the rest is just sitting loose at the moment. So really just get into where you've scored it and really just reinforce that. And then just make certain that everything, so I'm wanting to make sure that these two signatures on this side and these two signatures all sit nicely together. If they don't, this is your last chance to sort of wiggle in your position. But I'm happy that that's going to sit nicely. And I'm just going to get that out of the way and sit it all together to make sure that everything is nice. So these all match up perfectly, so everything's nice and straight. Okay, and now I'm just going to peel off the other 2 strips on either side and do the same thing. Add some art glitter glue or some strong wet glue, whatever you're using. And get that down, burnish it in really well, and do the same on this side. Okay, so now I can clip 1, 2, 3, 4, and they kind of lock in together, and everything's nice and level. Alright, so now therein I can decorate the inside of the journal with those pieces of paper that I've got here. I think that one was going to be in the middle, and that one was going to go in there, and that one was going to go in there. So I will do that. I will use double-sided tape. I will place these images in. On these ones I will glue it down and then trim it to match the contour on both of those sides and glue the bottom one down, and then I'll be back. So I've got the journal covered. So there's the front at the moment, one of the spines, the back and the other spine. and when you open it up, I've covered the inside and made a pocket and glued this pocket down and covered it. Actually added an extra magnet on the outside because by the time I covered it, it wasn't magnetic enough to hold it on, and now that's fine. So I've covered the inside of this pocket. I haven't covered that yet, and I've made this because this is the one that's going to be the little tuck spot. So I've made a little envelope basically so that that becomes a separate tuck, and that's got a pocket down. So I'll adhere that on. All I've done is I've folded it over, it's just scrap paper. I've folded it over, I've put double-sided tape on the end that's going to go here, on the two sides that are going to fold in here, and on the side that's going to stick it to this. And because I want it to line up perfectly with here, I'm going to do that bit first. So that to line up with the edge of that. Put that bit on first, and then the other parts. And instead of covering these pockets, because the rest of the journal is so colourful, I was thinking that maybe some gold embossing would look really nice. So that's adhered that side on, didn't think of that, and now I've got to glue on the inside to glue that down. Okay. So now that's a tuck from the top. It's a top pocket, and there's a pocket there. So I'll just leave that. So that side's done. Then I've covered the inside with paper, and this is ready to close up. What I was thinking was, instead of covering it, is I've got a couple of stamps. There's a few butterflies and dragonflies and so on in the journal, and I was thinking that this might look nicer to emboss that, because it's already a pretty colour, to emboss that, and then, which I'll do. So I just need a bit of scrap paper and my embossing ink, and I might go with this butterfly stamp. And I've got gold embossing powder. Let me just put the lid on that glue. This is a metallic gold rich superfine from Wow. And just a little bit more in that top corner. Okay. Just put that back in the tub. put the lid back on the powder. Okay, I really like that. So I'm happy with that. I'm just going to glue that pocket down just on the two sides. And then that's a nice big pocket to tuck all sorts of bits and pieces. Okay. So that's the back pocket done. Then I flip one signature, the other, this side and that side. And I'll do the same on this pocket. This is a fairly intricate pattern, which is why I've gone with the super fine powder. And then I just need a little bit more on the side to cover that. And that should be good. Okay. Lovely, I'm happy with that. Really glad I did that. Alright, that looks really nice. So now there is the journal. I was also thinking, I do have a Versamark pen. I was thinking that it might be nice to put some gold just on the edges of this contoured edge. It might just finish it off nicely. I did pull out a whole lot of laces and things, which looked quite nice, but I wanted to keep it really modern. For example, if you popped lace behind that profile, that could look nice, but I wanted to go really modern. And then I had a couple of other, this one looked quite nice, just a really small bright white bit that went behind it, so you could always do something like that to go behind it. But I think I'm going to go, I found gold as well, which was just a bit too gold. So what I think I'll do is do the same thing and just use this marker and just go along the outside of the profile. And also along, rub it just along the very edge, because it's quite thick here by the time I've got all the different layers. And depending on how you go with, because you can't really see while you're drawing it on, you can always go back and do another layer. So I'm just going to push that on there and then tip it off, and then try and make sure that I've got the edges covered as well. That's pretty good. So let's see how that goes, and then I'll do the other edge as well. It's going to be underneath that. Okay, I like that. So I'll do the same on this side, and I think I might also go around the front covers on those edges as well.